Hello and welcome to another Writerly Witterings. My name's Michael Jex, I'm an author, and this is my series on inspirational authors. Today I'm going to give you an author who I first read when I was about 14, and I absolutely hated it. It was tedious, it was dull, it was dreadful, it was just boring. So this is for my English teacher of the time, who forced me to read John Masters. And the book he forced me to read was Nightrunners of Bengal. Not a particularly grabbing title, is it? No, I agree. But John Masters wrote a series of books set in India and about the Indians. He was in fact an Englishman, child of the Empire, standard sort of fellow, who, there you go, a picture of him, who was born in Calcutta in 1914, and he was the fifth generation of his family to serve in India. He was educated in Britain at Wellington and then went on to Sandhurst, military training, and joined the Prince of Wales' own Gurkha Rifles. So he was a genuine fighting fellow. After the outbreak of war, he saw active service in Iraq, Syria and Persia, as it was then, sorry Iran. And in 1944 he commanded a brigade of General Wingate's Chindits going through Burma. They were the guys who went behind Japanese lines and basically had nothing on them at all. They had to live off the land. They had limited firepower. Mostly they had rifles and that was about it. But they proved to be a real threat to the Japanese army and caused a lot of mayhem. So the General Slim's forces, of which you will know of course because you will have read Quartered Safe Out Here by George MacDonald Fraser. It was the Chindits who were behind the lines helping disrupt communications that made life a lot easier for General Slim and his division to advance and push the Japanese back. Masters obviously knew India intimately. He was born there, his family was from there. And these three books, The Deceivers is about the cult of thugs. They were the stranglers for Kali, the goddess of destruction. Basically they would go around the whole of India making friends with travellers and then strangling them. And their murder was supposed to be in glorification of Kali. Strange. So this is the story about how they were uncovered and finally destroyed. It's a novel, it's not straight historical fact, but the thugs that they were fighting against, the East India Company, they were genuine. All the things that are put in the book are authentic, and it's a fascinating read. The second book, Nightrunners of Bengal, was all about the beginning of the Indian Mutiny. The Nightrunners were the messengers that went in between the different towns with the Indian sepoys, the soldiers, with chapatis I think it was, taking a message saying, okay, we're going to rebel against the East India Company on this date. So this is all about that and the outbreak of the Great Indian Mutiny. Fascinating book, told with real conviction and an understanding of the Indian people as well. Really good book. But they're not the books I'm going to recommend, because quite a lot of people have heard of Nightrunners of Bengal and so on. And so I've done my bit for my English teacher, I've spoken about it. Now I'm going to talk about the Ravi Lancers, because this is one of his books I don't think too many people do know about. And the Ravi Lancers takes the example of people from the British Indian Army at the outbreak of the First World War. And it's one of those things that so many people are not aware of, is that the First World War, as in the Second World War, it was not England fighting against Germany, it was the British Empire against the German Empire. And we had a huge number of Indian soldiers who came to fight for the Empire, and they suffered all the same privations. In fact, they probably suffered more because they were looked down upon by a lot of the other troops. But these guys were brave, and they suffered in exactly the same way as the English soldiers did, but they tend to be forgotten. And I think it's a matter of honour that we should remember the people who fought for Britain in the First and Second World Wars, wherever they came from. This is not just a story of the Indian soldiers, though, it's also the story of their commander. How an enthusiastic young English officer could come back to what he would consider the home country, and then how his cheerful, affable nature is gradually eroded in the mud and the horror of Flanders. It's another book that's not the most uplifting, perhaps, but it's a fantastic story that's brilliantly well told, and I really highly recommend it. If you haven't read John Masters, this is a really good start point. So there you have it. Another writer who I find utterly inspirational, because his historical knowledge, his characterisation, and his ability to write a story that is just utterly enthralling is superb. So, hope you like that. Do please share this with other people and like it and subscribe. And any comments you've got about other writers you'd like me to talk about, or other things I should be talking about, down the bottom please, and I will get round to them as soon as I possibly can. In the meantime, thanks a lot for watching. Cheers!